Standing a boat, and all it takes is the length of a boat trailer and a pickup bed for communication to get very messed up. And in spite of all kinds of hand gestures, the communication stays messed up. And somehow that trailer doesn't meet the boat. And it goes on for a long time sometimes. So how is it Jesus could talk from standing in a boat and be heard? If you've ever had that question, this is your lucky day. By the internet, and I'll ask the slide to be changed, Stephanie. This is called Sower's Cove at the Sea of Galilee. I don't know exactly what they've got set up there. It looks like bleachers, it's not, but this is where Jesus spoke from. And this is only a portion of it. It's shaped like a horseshoe. Basically, it is a natural auditorium of sorts. And because it's a natural auditorium, it turns out that if someone is down on the water, or some years when it's dry, it literally walks dry or literally walks out where the water would have been, that person can speak and be heard all the way up in that top area. The estimate is about 7,000 people can sit in that area and hear the person that is in the center of it. And so it was, this sower went out to sow. And you can go to slide 3, Stephanie, thank you. And the sower sowed on rocky soil and hard-packed soil. The sower sowed on good soil, and the sower sowed where the weeds and the thistles were. And it seems to me the sower had too much in the way of seeds, or too much enthusiasm for sowing, or just poor vision. Except Sower's Cove has, as you can see, paths. It has good soil. It has rocky soil. It has plenty of thorns and thistles. Everyone who was listening to Jesus that day was in an area of one of those types of soils. Standing there or seated there, not likely seated in the thistles, but each one was by one of those soils. And Jesus the sower was casting out the seeds indiscriminately, knowing some seeds would take and other seeds would not, knowing that the fate of the seeds was in our own hands, or in the hands of... I received a message recently, and it was one of the cutest messages I've ever received. It was from a young woman who was about to have a birthday, turning 15, 16, 17, somewhere in that neighborhood. And she said, my mom told me about the day I was born. And she said, you were one of my first visitors. And she would visit a baby in the hospital. Usually I'm really going to visit the parents. Yes, I hold the baby if that's a possibility, and we have a prayer and all of that, but it's to celebrate with the parents or to pray over the concerns that may be tied into that birth. It's to be with the parents, and I guess I've never really thought of what it might someday mean to the baby. In fact, I've never received a note like this before, and suddenly I received this note that said, how cool you were there. That means important to her. And I thought, I sowed a seed, and I didn't even know I sowed a seed. And it turns out that we are, you can change slides if you want, Stephanie. It turns out that sometimes we are the farmers who plant the seeds, the little kindnesses that may grow or may not grow. Some may take root, some may become reminders of God's love. It's a reminder that we never know which seeds will take root, which seeds will be important. It's a reminder that we are meant to bear fruit because of the seeds of faith that others have planted in our lives. But I also think Jesus' parable reminds us that there are things that get in the way of us bearing fruit. There are hard-packed, unreceptive places that don't receive the gifts Jesus has to offer. I call those the places where we have walked and walked out of habit. And those places get pounded down and entrenched, and it's very hard to grow a seed there into anything. And there are places where attitudes, places where understandings or lack of understandings, and old hurts and old wounds like weeds threaten to crowd out any seed that has been planted. Cynicism. And in each of us, there is some fertile soil, ready to receive what Jesus has to offer. You can go to slide 5 if you want, thank you. Ready to grow and change. There is that part of us that wants to bear fruit. No wise farmer would plant these seeds indiscriminately unless each seed is God's yes to us, and unless each seed becomes an opportunity for us to say yes to God. Every one of those listeners at Sowers Cove had the opportunity to move to a different place, to move to where the soil was good. And that is a metaphor for the truth that every one of us has the opportunity to tend the soils in our lives. A chance to be. The farmers sow seeds everywhere because God has a purpose for every person. And if we will make ourselves ready, if we will become the good soil, that purpose can grow up within us. If we will break up those habits, those hard-packed things that keep us in the same rut. If we choose to move the stones, if we choose to weed through our priorities, tossing out the noxious stuff that drains life, we can choose to become fertile and receptive. The evening, 16 of our key leaders of this church gathered. I invited them to because actually the bishop invited them to, and the cabinet. An invitation to consider being part of a Healthy Church Initiative project. And I shared in a brief email a little bit about what that was about, which is the opportunity for us to work with other coaches and teachers who come in and become a church that is thriving and growing, become a church that is vital, again, in spite of the fact that a lot of churches are graying and aging, as we are. But it's a chance to turn the tide. The bishop and the cabinet are planting seeds. They aren't doing it indiscriminately. They don't have a lot of seeds. There are a few seeds. There's a bit of resources, and they want to invest some of those resources right here at Grace United Methodist Church. If we proceed, you will be asked, some of you, to fill out surveys. You will be asked, some of you, to be part of focus groups, to hear what's important to you. Some of you will be asked to be part of a prayer team, to keep the whole process in prayer. Those who are leaders and at the meeting are being asked to pray over whether or not they would be willing to step into a leadership role with Healthy Church Initiative for the next 18 months or so. Those are some seeds that are being scattered. Those are some opportunities for growth. Those are some things this congregation, portions of it, are praying over. And I invite you to pray over it as well. What rocks this week will you pick? What habits will you start to break? What weeds and clutter will you dispose of? How will you say, yes, God, I am working to create some good soil so that your ways can root more deeply in me? Because there is a kindness, a way of living that you have that only you can offer someone else. God is planting hopes and dreams and seeds in your life. God is planting you because there are some things only you can do. Thanks be to God.